Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Power On podcast. I don't know why I'm doing that voice. Anyways, I don't even know where that came from. This is Bebop Edition, and I am one of your hosts, Taylor, and with me is the Eternal Sushi B. How you doing?
Eternal. That's a rather long time.
Just a little.
Yep.
Goes on and on and on.
I'm doing okay. And you?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for asking. So, man, we're going to get into episode 21, Boogie Woogie Feng Shui. And I mentioned this in the previous recording, but this is one that gets a lot of flack.
Okay.
Some people dislike this one.
And you've heard why, or like there's specifics?
It feels like there's just like nothing to it. So kind of how we felt with like Wild Horses, where it's just sort of nothing really going on. This is the same sort of thing.
Okay.
Nothing really going on. At least what I've heard that's kind of what that goes into.
Okay.
So, but yeah, let's start it off. What are some things you like about this episode?
Oh, it's another jet-focused episode, which is kind of cool. It's nice again. It's a little bit different than the previous two, which is also a nice kind of change, but calls back to some of his stuff in his past. A little less in the sense of, I think, his current, place in the world, or sort of his current feelings. I don't think this episode's connection to that is maybe as strong as, say, the previous two that were focused on him. So I think that could be a bit of a drawback to some people's attention to this one.
I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to say that this is the turning point for our boy Jet here. Like where those other two focused on his past very heavily, the very, very, very strong focus on those sorts of things. You've seen how he was. Dour, stuck in the mud, spinning his wheels. This is the episode that finally kind of breaks him of that. And he gets this lesson from Meifa of, when she's kind of talking about, there's the heavenly chi, the earthly one, and then the one of human magnetism and that sort of thing. But the very important thing that she mentions is that Feng Shui is active.
Right.
And that's where he has been nothing but passively living his life. She is very much making this point of, like, you just see it throughout this whole episode, that there is just a different energy that's going on. Yeah, he's being led around, but he's not necessarily, like, there's a bit of a goofiness to him, and yeah, there's the weirdness of where they're eating ice cream and stuff, where he's like, oh, I'm not old enough, your dad, I'd be your boyfriend, and he's like, wait, that's maybe an older brother kind of thing. There is that weird attention to that, but I think it's also because he's almost being born again in a way. That he's finally, like, after being what he was as this sort of stern, mature person, but very, very inflexible, or at least seemingly so from what we've gotten. Now he's kind of, it's not just the being flexible and just living, but also being more active and making those choices to do stuff instead of only being in the position to be active because you need money or need to eat. And so there's a bounty. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's what this is, and then also she mentions, the power to turn bad luck into good luck kind of thing. I think that's what the whole crux of this is. Yeah, she's got this going on, and he's wondering, why was I even like a part of this sort of thing? But I think this is kind of the stroke of luck in life to be like, hey, Jet, here's your lesson. Learn from it. Be more active. Do more kind of thing and stuff. So that's something I really, really like about this episode.
I'm going to disagree. I think his turning point is actually after he ate the mushrooms. He's like, hey, maybe the Earth really is a great place. That was the turning point.
He's freed his mind, man. Freed his mind.
But seriously, yeah, okay, I see your point there. But his past, like, I guess those other two episodes, yes, reflect, I guess, where he's at in that moment and the sort of dire place that he can't find optimism in his life to some degree. And so I guess on your point, though, Meifa, who is from his past, but doesn't really have a marker, I guess, really, other than the fact that, oh, I remember you as a child. But she didn't really have an influence on him, per se, in his life, so much as her dad would have. But I guess that's coming full circle with the feng shui here. Mm-hmm. Right, dad has been replaced. The natural order of things. She's now replaced him and is now a new guide for him, but he just doesn't know it until, as the episode plays out. Because he's, as you said, he's kind of just being led. Right? He's letting himself be led, though. He opens himself up for that, though, too, which is interesting because Jet's not a particularly open person.
Right. Well, and then he also makes the remarks at the end of like, hey, pal, it's not, you didn't dictate this. She's the one that actually, by her own will kind of thing did it. Right. And it's like, okay, you see the lesson being played out for you, Jet. Come on. You got it. Like, go with it. Not to say that he does or doesn't, but,
But there's 5 more episodes to get through, so.
right. But I think that is what this episode is really trying to do. And I don't know. And it feels like nobody ever really mentions that as being a part of it, or just feel like that's not important enough. I don't know.
But nothing happens in this episode.
I mean, nothing happens in like 80%
a lot of the
episodes.
Yeah. So that's where I know that's why I'm being a bit ironic. And if that is the argument, like we could just say the previous episode, nothing really happened. The episode before that, like there's a lot of episodes you could say are actually kind of empty in a way. In their own way, right? Like there's usually a lesson to be learned, but it also depends on how are those characters taking that and interacting with those around them and the world, and then preferably moving forward rather than just taking it and saying, not much I can do about that.
Right.
There's a particular character who seems to do that very often, so.
Yeah.
And it's not Ein.
Oh boy.
I like the general setting here. This seems to be a bit of like a futuristic Hong Kong.
Well, I was going to say, this like kind of leans back into episode 2. Get very strong episode 2 vibes because it's on Mars. I mean, Jet walks on like the same bridge that Spike and Abdul Hakim fought on. So, like, or at least one that looks like it. Not only that, Lao Chu makes a surprise visit. And is used for a lead up to an absolutely brutal kill. Like, Jeff, he knocks out the dude and then chokes out some information and then breaks his neck.
Sure does.
And Meifa doesn't seem to be bothered by that.
Yeah, she does not seem to be bothered by it, but that's because for her, I guess, that was the feng shui. That was what was supposed to happen, I presume.
Yeah. I also like how the kids were like, after they'd gotten bullied about their ball getting kicked away, they came back and were like, oh, look at this dude's goofy glasses, cheap glasses.
It's like, dude's dead.
Well, but that's, honestly, like, that's what would happen, So to me, that's like a really cool scene, as brutal as that is, but just a very, I guess you would say, almost like a natural scene, where it's not like, oh my goodness, it's just like, look at his goofy glasses, kind of thing. So,
well, it's kind of like, is that episode 1 where he's drinking the whiskey and then he grabs the guy with his arm and puts the broken bottle to his eyes, like, tell me more.
Right, tell me more.
Kind of a similar position, right, where he's got him in. So,
he certainly likes to strong arm people.
He sure does. Probably hence why he's never replaced his arm with a new organic arm.
Maybe.
Yeah, and going a little further back to what you just said too, it's funny how Spike, Faye, and to a lesser degree Ed, more so because Ed is so impressionable, that Spike and Faye see a side of Jet that they don't normally see, so they just instantly presume it's, because he's fallen in love with this girl. Right? Rather than like, maybe he's actually learning something, maybe there's a further personal connection from the past. It's just, they just immediately jump to this conclusion.
Right, and then Faye has that line about, the more righteous a guy was.
Right.
When he was younger, the older he gets, he seems to fall for some young thing.
Right. Yeah. And then Ed just comes up and asks him blatantly, are you in love with her?
No, are you Jake's girlfriend?
Yeah.
And then walks off, all is fair in love and war.
Oh, yeah. Wiggling her arms. Her and her rubber octopus arms and legs.
Right,
she's
right.
flailing about. I do like the quotes that you said earlier, right? Where he's just like, no, wait a minute, I'm not old enough to be your father. All right, well, if anything, I could be your boyfriend. And then how she kind of looks at him like, what? Wait, that would be bad, right?
Right,
but he says something in between. Open foot, insert mouth. That's what he said. I had to listen to it about 6 times because he says it in such a low key. But open foot, insert mouth. I was like, did he mispronounce that? Is it supposed to be open mouth, insert foot? And he says open foot, insert mouth. If anything, it'd be more like your older brother. Yeah. But I think I might use open foot, insert mouth. It's pretty funny one. I can see the argument of like a whole lot of nothing happening, I guess, if you excluded Jet. Right? Like it is kind of empty. There's a lot of emptiness, right? There's a lot of just go here, find the trinket, It is a little bit dull, I suppose you could say. To some degree, like I can see that because there isn't a ton of action, but we can again go back to something like Wild Horses or what have you. There's plenty of other episodes that play out a little slower. But I don't think it hurts this episode, to me at least, and I like just the idea of how ingrained Meifa is with Feng Shui. Like she truly believes in the concepts. Mm-hmm. And this isn't just like some hoax. This isn't just some hokey, phony religion, if you will, or whatever. She truly believes in this. And each of these events make Jet believe too. Whether they're just coincidences is potentially arguable, because her father kind of set parts of this up. I know at the end, it's like, no, she found you still, but there was a paper trail left, to a degree here.
Well, right, there's the paper trail, but but this is the lesson it's trying to instill. Sure, the paper trail is there, but it is up to the individual to actually act upon it. Because if they don't act upon it, then it becomes unfulfilled.
Yep.
So the couple interesting little drops here that I like. One, and it's been hinted at throughout, but here's a very in-your-face sort of thing of the Jet got the Mandarin going there. So, I mean, it's never really explicitly stated, but that's more, I think the main language is Mandarin for a lot of stuff at this point for the galaxy and stuff, which is a bit fascinating. But there's that, as well as the picture from January 15th, 2061, of with Powell and Meifa and Jet looking dapper as usual.
Dapper, yeah.
So.
Yep. As I said, I like the setting, like that sort of I don't know if it's supposed to be, but to me that looks like Hong Kong, right? You've got a harbor there, the type of signage, like when it comes to like the way they kind of hang out from the buildings and stuff, it looks very much like Hong Kong's busy streets. And then, the double-decker trolleys, things like that. So yeah, just like the general setting of the episode. It looks like, surprised we don't see a half cyborg Jackie Chan flipping off of stuff in the background or something. Was his playground.
Right.
Not in every movie, frankly, but for the police story series, except for the fourth, so.
I'm trying to think, where was the fourth one even at?
Well, because remember in the fourth one, he was out in the Arctic or something. They did the snowboarding at the beginning.
Oh, right.
He's in Australia because they go to the aquarium and the guy's shooting the holes in the aquarium, and then the water pressure is pushing that really strong water, and Jackie's like running through it and he has the fight with the ladder, and that's supposed to all be in Australia.
Good stuff. Recommend those police movies. Those are good.
Yeah, if you only watch a single one of them, Super Cop, like the third one, like for sure, Super Cop.
Super Cop's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's just the first two are great. I love the first one, and the second one's it's okay.
I think the second one's a little bit of a slump.
Like that fight in the factory and like the fireworks and stuff going off. Like it's okay. Like it's still really fun. But then you get to Super Cop and you're like, whoa. And First Strike is kind of underrated. I feel like people just think it's just not that good. I think it's underrated.
I really like the bus bit.
In the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hanging by the umbrella and everything.
Yeah.
And then when he makes the thing stop and the guys fly off the second deck through the window. That's pretty cool. It's a good, still of Jackie. Yeah, but I like in Super Cop is the third one when Michelle is giving him the massage, and like his girlfriend notices it because it's his nose. She recognizes his nose. Yeah. And the first one's when he pulls her off the scooter.
Yeah.
Right on her butt.
As the thing just goes off.
Yeah. They had to do that several takes, and I guess that really hurt.
I would imagine that would hurt.
Yeah,
that or just the bit where Yao goes, and of course, I think some people have seen that where she takes the motorbike and gets onto
jumps onto the train. The train, yeah.
Yeah, because that's also the one where he's dangling from
the helicopter. He jumps
the helicopter ladder.
So she said she wanted to do that stunt, and then Stanley Tong was like, "If I let you do that, then what am I going to do with Jackie? Like, what's Jackie going to do? Like, he has to still like take the crazy stunt. It's like her stunt was just as crazy,
right?
Like his is really crazy because like he could have basically
easily died.
Yeah, like he was jumping off of a whatever story building, and he would have just been dead. Like he would have just felt his death, and she could have died just as much, but I would like to think she had a better chance of survival.
But I think didn't they like also put in cardboard on the other side?
I don't know.
I thought she like fell off of it a couple times.
She did fall off of it a couple of times. So yeah. So I don't know. It's still a crazy stunt.
Well, but it's not. It doesn't take anything away from it.
No.
It's a badass stunt. And yeah.
No, I love the fight scene when we'll have to get off Super Cop here, but when he goes and all those kids are sitting and they're like, welcome. And then she's like, a real life Hong Kong Super Cop, and he's like, no, like he's trying to be really coy, and then that guy really wants to fight him, and how serious the other guy is, and Jackie's got that smile on his face, like, sure, whatever, and then they really get into it. Yeah, it's such a fun movie.
If there's anything I've learned about Jackie Chan, and just fighting in general, is obviously be absolutely batty, but also do it with a smile on your face. You tend to win out at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. It worked pretty well for him.
Right.
But yeah, back to this episode. Trying to think of a couple other really good positives here. I like kind of the idea of being in that gate. I mean, it's a little bit long, but it is kind of interesting because it kind of reminds me of like pocket dimensions and things like that. And I found that was kind of interesting that they had to be through the gate and still traveling through the gate for that to happen. But we don't really see, like early on, remember when the gate closed and like the what did Jet say? Like obviously the missiles didn't pass through, but like the images continued through.
Right.
And otherwise all the gate stuff we've seen since is just flying into a gate basically or coming out of a gate.
So yeah, what's up with this weird pocket dimension thing that's going on?
Yeah, like it's interesting but it's like I guess time must almost stand still as you're passing through the gate, but they kept, I don't know, it's a long moment, right? So I'm like, oh, interested to hear more of the science, I guess, behind it.
I always thought of it as just like a stream or like a river. Mm-hmm. So it's like, this thing that we have set up. If you go through here, it's almost like a not a wormhole where it's instantaneous, but wormhole light. That's the way I thought of it, was that it's wormhole light.
Yeah, it could be, but just interesting that Pow is in there. But I'm assuming it really, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, is he dead at that point? Is he like trapped in, like, doesn't age?
No,
now
he says
because he's in there.
No, he says that it's like, hey, we're running out of oxygen.
Right.
So, and it's only been a few days, so I'm
But assuming, if that were the case, like, let's say his oxygen, would he just, like, cease to age at that point? Or, like, I don't know, like...
I just say he dies. Like, it just whatever, stuck in that weird pocket
dimension thing.
Yeah.
Stuck inside a sunstone.
St. Elmo's fire. You're just in a little snow globe the whole time. Spoilers for a show from the 80s.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the. I think Meifa and Jet, like they have a good dynamic in this episode. I like that she's a little more exuberant and sort of showing him around, but he's also still a bit of a realist. But he's trying to be open-minded to her, and he almost he feels a bit of it's okay. He feels a bit of responsibility, I think, for her.
I think this is just the kind of being imbued with almost like a second wind. Mm-hmm. Like, come on, enjoy life.
Yeah.
Like, get back to it.
Do you think that final, like how Jet at the beginning basically says, this is a rather odd story, and then the closure, he basically just says, a whole lot of nothing happened. The end is essentially how he wraps it up. So maybe that's also why people are like, they just blatantly tell us that nothing happens.
I mean, that certainly could play into it. I mean, he does say that he's just like, Meifa went on and he's like, well, I don't know about myself, but I do know I don't check the horoscopes anymore.
Right.
And there's at least that change. The horoscopes to me are almost like, this is what gives you the go ahead to be how you are, sort of thing. Because there's it's a lot of vagary. Yeah. Because this is where another interesting point that gets brought up, where like Jet's like, oh, it's like a fortune teller, and then she's like, scoffs at it. Yeah. No, whatever. They're just a bunch of guessing goobers.
Yeah.
Feng Shui, this is then when she goes into the whole thing is about being active, about the doing, and I think that's to me that's like it's just a very strong, great lesson to imbue into anybody is to do the thing. And this is where I think horoscopes kind of. At least the line that he's giving is, maybe me just reading into it. It's like, read the horoscopes. Oh, it will tell me to, I don't know, let me look up one now. Let me see what today's horoscopes tell me.
You will walk past a potential love interest, this week, or this kind of stuff.
They used to be like that. I think they've kind of changed a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Let me see if I
Are
can
they
find.
even more generic?
I don't know if I would say more generic.
You will likely get out of bed today and breathe.
I don't think quite as generic as that, but of course I can't.
Well, while you're looking for one, the interesting thing about horoscopes is if you and I, let's say we had no inclination to know that they were linked to, birth months or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and if I just grabbed one at random and I said, here you go, this is your sign and this is your horoscope, you would just be inclined to believe that to be true. Right? And then you would read everything on there and say, yep, that's okay. I see where I align, and maybe these are a little bit off. But then if you went and saw like, oh, well, actually your birthday is this month, so you're actually this sign, and this is what your horoscope would be, you'd probably not flip back and be like, no, I'm closer to this first one, because you've been conditioned to believe. Like, I think that's kind of interesting about them, and like we read into them looking for those answers of like, oh yeah, I'm totally that, or whatever.
All right, so let's do one for mine for tomorrow. Let's see what tomorrow has in store for me. Tomorrow has in store for me. A friend could put forth some ideas regarding incorporating the arts into a business enterprise. Cancer. Surprise, guys, I'm a Cancer. Whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. A lot of discussion could result, though it's unlikely that any final decisions will be made now. More ideas should come over the next few days. Some intense research on your end should shed some light on the workability of the project. Go for it. What does that even tell you? Like, what does that tell you? Like, I mean, maybe it's
I think
not
it tells you that a lot of people don't have projects on the run, so this is almost trying to motivate people to do things.
I see, and that's, yeah, so...
Which I guess on one hand, it's like, okay, that's a good thing, right? But
today's matches, my love is a Taurus. Hi, Tauruses, if there's any out there. My friendship is a Libra. Hi, Libras, let's be friends.
You mess with the bull, you mess with the... Yeah, you really get the horns or whatever.
Evidently. In a good way. Career, Capricorns, get at me. My today's star ratings, my general mood. Success, only 2 stars, not that great. I'm vibing. I got a 3 out of 5. I hustle, got a 4 out of 5. My sex, 4 out of 5.
Wait, hustle is one of the... Go ahead, Taylor. Chop, chop. Hustle. Put some hustle into it.
No, my hustle. That's my hustle. I'm hustling. Just not having much success with it.
Wow. Okay, yeah. I beg to differ. I don't think they're any different than they probably read about 20 years ago. Well, 30, 40, 50 years ago, other than the language, like the actual words.
But I get, yeah, that's true.
They're the same thing, right? Like, they're looking at this now to be like, oh, a successful enterprise. They're thinking all the people that are like, I should just start up a YouTube channel. Like, I think they've just reworded and reworked what it used to look like. Where it would have probably said, a new employment opportunity will fall in your lap. It's just like, they're just trying to reword them to make them sound a little bit more in line with the language we use today. But it's the same silly message. Mm-hmm. And as silly as they can be, like sometimes they could give people a little bit of a confidence boost or whatever, right? To actually do something. Or
people do have a lot of they put a lot of faith in this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people who are into that, and mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess me as a person, I'm just kind of like, I am not one to let my situation dictate me, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like, for better and for worse, it's not like, oh, it's a good thing to just kind of shoot straight ahead kind of thing. Sometimes a little bit more couth and a little less forwardness might do me some good, but it's
let the fates guide you.
Yeah, no. Fates gave me 1 year. I'm good.
The ogre battle tarot cards.
Oh, right.
Or the Langrisser had something similar, right? It was like, do you see yourself a natural leader, or are you?
Oh, right.
Yeah, it had some kind of little fate thing at the beginning as well.
Yeah,
both games did.
Tarot's also that's a thing I'm not nearly familiar with outside of just kind of knowing some of the cards and just the questions, but beyond that, it's kind of like.
I do know if the stack has 007 on the back, it's probably stacked against you.
Oh. Okay. Did not know that, but
from Live and Let Die, remember?
Oh,
Roger Moore stacked the deck.
I only heard 77.
I said 007.
Well,
if it's got the silly 007 insignia on the back, it's probably a stacked deck.
My brain only heard 77.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not your fault.
You flip them over, and they're all going to be the lovers.
Oh boy.
But back to this episode, we were really all over the map on this one. Our feng shui is really bad on this. I don't think I have any other necessarily positives to go through here.
All right, what are some negatives then, or grays?
I don't really have too many negatives. I mean, some of what you had said previous episode, some of the computer generated stuff in the wormhole light, if you will, or the gate. Is kind of, it's not bad, but it's kind of like, it throws you off a little bit, especially when they show the inside of the Bebop and they're like looking out the window.
That, it's a bit jarring compared to the more lush environment. It's a bit more green this episode as well.
That's true. It's
a little bit more lively, which I think plays into that youthful exuberance and stuff. So,
I would say, I don't disagree that the episode is a little bit dull. Like I won't disagree with that point. It does feel a little dull just in the pacing of it a bit. But I think that the character arc of those two interacting at least helps offset some of that.
To an extent, but I think part of that also is this is an episode that really, it's a Jet episode, but it's actually it certainly more leans towards being Mayfa's episode, and it kind of similar to like Heavy Metal Queen. It's sort of it's more in line with that episode, and just like the focus. Sure, they're in there, but it's kind of leaning more to this one-time character than the Bebop crew.
That's fair, and if you go back to Heavy Metal Queen, there was sort of a learning for the our main characters like that we know of, like for Spike in that one, and then vice versa here with Jet.
So, I guess one big thing that irritates me to no end. Was the thing mentioned before that Maeve was just kind of like unfazed that Jet just murked that dude, and to me that just seems like I get it, but in the same hand,
someone's supposed to be so innocent didn't seem to be bothered by that.
Well, that, but also that Powell had made an effort to keep himself. Yeah, he may lose contact with his family and stuff, but at least they'll be safe, kind of thing. That and how easy the Sunstone's just in the statue, right in the mouth, just rips it out, and nobody says anything.
The lion statue, or whatever that's supposed to be. Yeah,
just rips it out, and it's like, oh, this is a piece of the moon. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's just randomly like, yep, just solved that one in about 5 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I will say I didn't find the reconcile all that convincing. It's not written particularly well. It's just sort of, I was mad at you. Okay. I'm not mad at you anymore. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I know people will reconcile differently, but it's kind of like, oh, there isn't really like to me, a clear, like, I love you, I miss you, or anything. It's just kind of like, yeah, okay, I don't really hate you anymore.
That and Jet's doing a little too much talking for somebody who hasn't seen in 10 years. It's like, hey, dude, his daughter is right. Hush.
We're running low on time here.
Right. Yeah, this is a 3-minute phone call, and used like a minute and a half already. Like,
how did you get into the gate? I gotta keep working on my Jet. I gotta get better at that voice. He's easier to do than Spike. Can't quite do Spikes. So that's kind of a little lacking for me as well, is just that reconcile.
That, and also Ein gets something to do. Ein shows them all up. Takes that stone right to the I don't even know what the thing's called. The little rotating device thing.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that tool's called. Type of balancing tool.
Right.
Yeah, and how Ed's just looking, he's like, whoa.
Oh, right.
Starts going a bit funky, a bit haywire.
And more of your beloved CGI.
Yeah. Well, I said it could have been a lot worse, right? In the entirety of the series, but it is a little bit jarring. I don't find the gates, like when they show the gates and they're passing through, it has like that white light, kind of like a wormhole. That one I don't find bugs me really at all. But some of this stuff where, you kind of wish it could have just been hand drawn for just showing. I'm sure they could have easily rotated a hand drawn like strip of speeding light, basically going through over and over again, and you wouldn't really be none the wiser as a viewer for the most part. But yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else, or do we want to go into ratings?
I think I'm good to move on. You got anything else?
I'm good. I am good. Other than saying I do like the line that Jet delivers where he's like, "All right, guys, deploy," and they're like, "What is?" Faye's like, "Hey, this is your thing. What do you mean?
What are you bringing us in on this?"
And he's like, "Battle stations or die with the ship."
Yeah. Yeah, Jet can be pretty forceful when need be. Yeah, it's fun.
I was gonna say the silhouette and stuff of Faye and Spike smoking on top of the Bebop is a nice look.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So. But then when it actually pans back to them in color, just kind of they could have just gone with the silhouettes.
Right.
I get that they're not going to be happy. From now on, this is no longer a smoking zone. You were just smoking in here like earlier today.
The rules have changed.
Yeah. Hence why they really think like something's up with him when is he trying to impress her?
That. Right.
Yeah, but he's not thinking that, right? He's thinking like she's just a kid to him, right? She doesn't need to be around our kind of riffraff.
Right, our kind of nonsense.
Right.
So, all right. Well, there's no proper bounty on this one, so we're going to go with 2 sunstones. A, the one that Mayfa found, and B, the one that Pao had to, I guess, kind of draw each other. I think that's how the science worked. So, I'm gonna go with 2 stones because it's an invaluable piece of moon rock. So,
yep. Yeah. Just found commonly around at your local pharmacy in a statue. So.
Right. So. I'm going to give this one, because I honestly really like this episode, I am going to give it 5 sunstones.
Okay. I like this episode too, so that's why I was a little surprised when you said that this one was disliked as much as it is, or at least from what you know. And I was going to just double up and give it 4 sunstones.
There you go. Now, see, this could have been something that me just reading different comments and just seeing it and just broad brush stroking a lot of opinions on it. But it feels like a lot of times I see that this is on the lower end. Okay. Just the last handful of episodes and stuff in particular maybe feels like this is probably the sluggish part of the series. They're just kind of like, oh, we gotta get to 26.
It makes you wonder, like, do people not want any optimism in this series? Because a lot of the episodes don't really end on optimism very often. And this one has a more positive outlook and outcome. Well, not completely in the outcome, I guess, right? But that kind of goes against the grain if you're looking at the bulk of the episodes.
It's a possibility. I don't know.
So it doesn't really fall in line with kind of the melancholy or the sort of, I wouldn't say dour, but just sort of the hopelessness at times and the sort of, this is just, it's the opposite, right? It's
the malaise.
It's not the same. It's definitely different.
So I think that coupled with it, like I mentioned before, about it being more focused on Meifa, really probably turns it back. Because like even like with the one with Walter Venus with Rocco, even though he was the kind of the focus, there was still it was a bit more of a balancing act. He wasn't fully the focus, but he was a very strong focus. Whereas, Meifa probably just doesn't have the appeal. Yeah, because she's not goofy like Ed. So there's a little bit more, but she's headstrong. Not necessarily in a bad way, but just very assured and stuff. And I don't know, maybe that also clashes with it. I don't know. I really like the episode. Any last comments you want to put out for it?
Like I know you said this isn't necessarily a Jet-centric episode completely, but of the three where he's at least the lead from the main crew, I wouldn't put this at the bottom. Like this would be my second. So, like
I'd probably put it in my second as well. So, yeah. All right. Well, I'm very curious to hear people's opinions on this. Maybe I misinterpreted. Maybe there are a lot of people who like this episode. Well, let us know, because I'm curious to know these sorts of things. And that's it. Thanks for listening. All that sort of fun jazz. And see you, Space Cowboy.